Hello everyone, so welcome you back to Ashok Tutorials Meghalaya's first Mtet channel. So as you know that I have started with you know I have started with explanation of the syllabus again once again for the year 2024. So let's get started. So I have already explained to you about the syllabus of paper 1, that is for LP section, and from this video on we are going to learn about the Mtet syllabus for paper 2, that is UP section. So first of all, as I always do, let me explain to you the syllabus for CDP. Alright, so CDP syllabus is divided into 7 units. How many units? 7 units. And as you know, it is for 30 marks, right? It is for 30 marks. So which means there will be 30 questions altogether. So now what we will do is that we will discuss them unit wise. So first of all, unit 1, you have understanding development. So you have to understand what do we mean by development. And you know developments are of different types. So developments are of different types. So this unit is for 3 marks. So when we study each of these subunits, it is very long and in very much detail, right? But it looks very simple, right? Just one line, one sentence. So for 3 marks, this unit is too much, right? But still we have to study. So if you want to score 3 marks, you need to study this particular unit very nicely. So understanding development, we need to understand the meaning and concept of what? Of growth as well as development. All right, so what is growth, what is development, what are the differences between growth and development, which one of this is a lifelong process? So those we have to understand. What are the different factors, what are the different pros and cons? So everything we need to analyze and we need to understand. All right, so there can be different types of like development: physical development, moral development, emotional development, social development, right? Then psychomotor development, then development characteristic with respect to childhood and adolescent stage. See, these two stages are very much important. Adolescence, what is adolescence? We have to understand that. So adolescence is a period of stress and storm, right? So we have to read this. What are the different changes which takes place in adolescent stage? What are the mental status of the adolescent? Now what is childhood? What are the different stages in childhood? Those things we have to study in this particular unit, subunit. Now development of children in socio-cultural context and its relation to learning. We also need to learn about the development of children in socio-cultural context. Since we are human beings, we don't live alone, right? We live in a society, so we are expected of following few certain norms of the society, and we have to follow certain cultures of the society, right? So how those cultures and rules of the society help in shaping the child, that we have to study. Then factors, what are the different type of factors which affects or influence development, that also we need to study. So all these subunits we need to study in detail in order to score 3 marks. All right, now let's go to the next unit. Shall I zoom it for you a little bit? Yes, I should. All right, so now let's go to the second one, that is aspects of development. So what are the different aspects of development? Let's see. Physical and motor development. See, by the word physical itself you understand what is physical, and by the word motor itself you understand what is motor. Motor means movement, physical means whatever we can see and touch, right? Now it will be for 4 marks. This particular unit will be for 4 marks. So we have to see physical development of the child, motor development of the child, and cognitive development we have to study with respect to Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So this one I have already explained quite a number of times, but still I will explain it to you one more time as I make the dedicated video for the subunits. Alright, so we need to study about Piaget's cognitive development theory. Now socio-emotional development. Now how is social development taking place? How is emotional development taking place in the children? That also we need to study. Then we need to study the moral development by which psychologist? Kohlberg's theory of moral development and Carol Gilligan's critics we need to study. All right. See, just yesterday I was going through the seated question paper. This Carol Gilligan's critic came for that seated exam. Yesterday's seated exam, UP section. It came. This Carol Gilligan's critic question came on this topic. So everything is interrelated. So if you master your pedagogy, you master everything. Nobody can stop you. You really become unstoppable. You become, when you are the master of pedagogy. So that is why, my dear friends, I try my best to make you the masters of pedagogy, because once your pedagogy is crystal clear, you know all other subjects, rest of the subjects, it becomes very very easy. It becomes a cakewalk for you. Let's go to the next unit, that is third one, gender development. This will be for 4 marks. So as we know, gender, what is gender, what is sex, you need to know the differences between gender and the sex. Of course, sex is something which we can accept, that is whether you are a male or a female. So sex is a biological term, right? But then gender is a negative term. All right, it is a negative term which is given by the society. There are certain, or I will discuss it later on. So when we talk about gender, we talk about females, and males, right? Gender, but this is biological sexes. All right, biological sexes, male and female. Now, stages of gender development, there are certain stages how a gender is developed, that also we need to study. Now, stereotypes. Stereotype is a very very important word, my dear friends. So stereotype in gender process development. So what is stereotypes? Stereotypes, I have been telling you multiple number of times, means that girls cannot play cricket, boys cannot sweep the floor, girls cannot play kabaddi, boys cannot wash clothes, or girls have to wear pink and boys have to wear blue or black. These are all stereotype thinking. We say, suppose a child falls down and the parents say, hey, don't cry. If a boy child falls down and he is crying, then they say, don't cry like a girl. This is called stereotype, which means if you are also, those who are watching my videos, if you also say this kind of things sometime or the other, now is the correct time for you to unfollow these stereotypes. Of course, these stereotypes is everywhere in our society, but we have to be the change. First of all, we teachers have to be the change, then only the society will change. So don't encourage stereotypes. Don't, people say girls cannot ride bikes. Of course they can do. Those who say girls cannot ride bike, your mind is stereotypes. So you have to be very much open-minded. Whatever the boys can do, the girls can do. Whatever the girls can do, the boys can also do. This should be our mindset. There should be equality between the two sexes, males and females. All right. Now, gender bias and educational practices. Now, what is gender bias? Gender bias means, suppose we think that suppose you as a teacher, not you, let me not say you, let somebody like with the name, what name should I use? Somebody with the name, alright, I'll just take a letter, right? Suppose a teacher A, he favors the females, alright? He favors the girl child of the school, but he do not favor the boys. Or there is another teacher B who favors the boys but not the girls. So these are what? These are the gender biases. So A interacts with the girls all the time, but he neglects the boys, and B interacts with the boys but neglects the girls. So this should not be the case. There should be equality between the two sexes. All right. So gender identity in the family and in matrilineal society. Now see, what is matrilineal society? Meghalaya, our proudly we can say we are the people of Meghalaya, a matrilineal society where the daughters are taking the surname of the mother, right? Now, gender identity, how a gender is identified in the family plays a very important role. So those also we need to take care of. All right, let's go to the next one now. Methods of child study. So we can study the background of the child, the present situation of the child, the past of the child, the history of the child in different methods. So this particular unit, method of child study, will come for 4 marks. How many marks? 4 marks. So cross-sectional study, longitudinal study, and case study. Cross-sectional, what is cross-sectional study? We will study. Then what is longitudinal study? Also we shall study. Then case study also we should study. Everything in detail as I make the dedicated videos on this. All right, then we have to study about naturalistic and participant observation. So how are we going to study the child in the natural setting, and how are we going to observe the child in the natural settings? Then reflective journals we will take. Then students portfolio, how a portfolio is built, what are the informations filled up there, those things we should take care of. Then anecdotal records we will study. Then interview, what is an interview. Then narrative study. Then Piaget's clinical method of child study we shall study in detail. Right, this one, Piaget's clinical method of child study. Now let's go to the next unit, that is unit 5. Unit 5 is for 5 marks. It is with inclusive education and children with special needs. See, children with special needs, many times you will see it is written CWSN, so you have to be careful. So children with special needs. Now concept, meaning of inclusive education. So if you remember, while you were doing your B.Ed, we have an entire unit where we talk about inclusive education, and we have even done field training or field work on this, right? So what is inclusive education, what is the meaning, those things you need to study. Then differences between integrated and inclusive education. So it is of 2 types. All right, inclusive education and integrated education, it is of 2 types. So you have to understand, differentiate. You should be able to differentiate between the 2. Now understanding disability and types of disabilities. So what are the different types of disabilities, like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, autism? All this you have to know. All right, then how many types of disabilities are there? There are 21 types of disabilities, right? Now barriers and challenges to inclusive education. What are the different types of barriers we face in inclusive education? What are the different types of challenges we face? Now inclusive education in children from different backgrounds, students coming from tribal families, underprivileged students coming from BPL family backgrounds, and children from low financial backgrounds, children from literate parents. So in a classroom is a mixture of students coming from different backgrounds. So as teachers we should know how to balance the classroom in such a way that all the child they feel accepted and nobody is left behind. All right, so let's see now what we have here. Unit 6, learning and pedagogy. And this learning and pedagogy is again coming for 5 marks. All right, so let's see what is learning and what is pedagogy. So concept of learning and factors of active learning. So we should know what is learning, how is learning done, what are the factors needed for efficient learning. So those things we should know. Information processing approaches, concept of working memory, long-term memory, short-term memory, attention, encoding, and retrieval. So these are some of the approaches of information processing we should know. Now Piaget's constructivism, what is learning, relationship between learning and the development we need to study. Piaget's constructivism we need to know. Vygotsky's social constructivism theory also we should study. Teacher-centered versus learner-centered approaches of teaching. See, when we are teaching in a classroom, what happens is that the methods we follow, the style we follow, the teaching we are giving in the classroom should be all child-centered and not teacher-centered. All right, because teachers, they don't have to learn inside the classroom. They need to learn, they need to study, they need to practice, they need to prepare outside the classroom and come back to the classroom and deliver or share the knowledge with the learners, right? So the learning should be for the learners, not for the teachers. Therefore we say the teaching should be not teacher centered but learner centered. The teaching should be learner centered, right? Skills, teaching skills and activity based teaching. Now see, what are teaching skills? There are different type of teaching skills, right? you know about micro teaching skills like stimulus response, questioning, probing questionings, then you know uh, uh, explaining the link, then giving examples, then uh, they were redirecting the question, then reframing the question, asking the questions. So there are different techniques which we use as teachers inside the classroom. And whenever you are organizing certain activities in the classroom, then you are encouraging the learners, you are really making effort for the learners to learn, because it becomes very boring for the learner sitting in one place whole day and studying the subject. So as teachers, what we can do is that we can ask them to participate. We can organize few activities inside the classroom and make our teaching learning process a very effective one. So this is what I do as teachers, and I expect you as well to do the same. Now, steps of preparation of teaching: pre-teaching, transaction of teaching, post-teaching, including teaching plans and lesson plans. Now, as teachers, you know how to prepare, what to prepare, when to prepare. What is our pre-teaching? What is our plan for the day? What is our lesson plan? How to do the checking of the copies? Everything you know, right? So you understand, right? Now, the last part is learning resources or teaching learning materials. Now, see, TLM, teaching learning materials, is called TLM. So how are we using the teaching learning materials? What are the different type of teaching learning materials we are using in a classroom? Like the simplest of all is the chalk and talk method, right? Then we use presentations, we use slides, we use the we bring the uh, our own self-made materials. Then we use pictures, we use videos, audios. Then we take the students outside the classroom to make the learning a real life learning, which means connecting the classroom situation with the outside world. So this is what we believe in the present world, right? Let's go to the last unit. I suppose this is the last unit. Yes, this is the last unit. So it will be for 5 marks again. So assessment of students performance. Now you see, when we are starting academic year, what do we do is that we prepare the students right from the beginning of the session till the end, so that by the end of the session we are able to find out how much the students have progressed. So there are certain techniques, certain assessment tools which we use. Now, assessment can be of two types. There is formative assessment and summative assessment. So there are two types of assessment: formative assessment and summative assessment. Now, what is formative assessment? Formative assessment is a type of assessment where the assessment is done during the course of study. Suppose class test or asking questions during the class. So this comes under formative assessment, I mean. And summative assessment means something which is done at the end of the session. For example, half yearly examination, annual examinations comes under summative assessment. Now, school based assessment. Now, whatever assessment taken up, whatever assessment is taken up in the school are known as school based assessment, or SBA. In short, we call it SBA. Now, the third part is that assessment for learning and assessment of learning. See, take care of these words: for and of. These things you need to take care of. Assessment for learning is different and assessment of learning is different. Now, techniques and tools of school-based assessment, including activity-based assessment. Now, what are the different types of techniques and tools we are using in order to assess the children are some things we need to study. Now, blueprint and different types of questions. What are the blueprint of the study, and what are the different types of questions, like the low order questions, middle order questions, high order questions, open-ended questions, close-ended questions. All these things we need to discuss here thoroughly. Now, the last part is assessment and remedial measures. Now, we also know that suppose when we are doing summative assessment of the learners, which means giving them the progress report at the end of the session, then some of the students we detain. Why do we detain? To give the remedial measures, which means they need to study the same class once more, because their concept, whatever they have learned, is not enough in order to promote them to the next class, right? So that's why we detain some of the students. But as you know, there are certain policies which says that no detention policy is there, right? Which which discourages us from detaining the students, right, of the elementary level, which means up to class 8 in government aided schools, in government schools like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, we should not detain the students up to class 8, right? So all these things, we need to take care of, and accordingly we should design our, you know curriculum, so that we are able to help the students in the best way possible, right? So I hope something or the other, at least a rough overview, you have got about the syllabus for UP section Mtet. And this syllabus you should study for your next Mtet exam. Of course, the syllabus is not going to change again and again. Some of you are asking like the syllabus, whether the syllabus is going to remain the same. Of course, 99% the syllabus will be same. Even if they want to change, they will not change it so much. And I don't think that they are even going to change, because we have already seen that last year only it was changed, right? So this syllabus will last now. So everything I have to say, I said already in this video. So thank you everyone for staying connected with Ashok Tutorials. Thank you.